The Cathar were a people of stark, brutal utility. Their home world, Cathar Prime, was a harsh landscape of jagged peaks and metallic plains, forged in the crucible of a violent sun. This environment had shaped their philosophy. Strength was paramount, efficiency was virtue, and sentiment was a dangerous flaw. Every tool, every structure, every Cathar life was dedicated to a clear, practical purpose. Their empire, built on conquest and resource acquisition, reflected this. When they encountered humanity, a species relatively new to the galactic scene, the Cathar warriors dismissed them. Humans were seen as physically unimpressive, their societies chaotic, and their technology haphazard. But most contemptible to the Cathar was the human tendency to form deep emotional bonds with and expend resources on lesser creatures, animals they called pets. To a Cathar, a creature either served a direct, measurable function, food, labor, or a component in a weapon system, or it was irrelevant. The human practice of keeping animals for mere companionship was, in Cathar logic, the height of inefficiency and softness. Commander Vorlag, a veteran of numerous resource consolidation campaigns, the Cathar term for raids and planetary subjugations, regarded the mission specs for Ag Station Epsilon with a familiar sense of disdainful duty. It was a small, remote human agricultural outpost on a barely terraformed moon, rich in certain biocompounds the Cathar hegemony required. Intelligence suggested minimal defenses and a population dedicated to primitive food cultivation. Vorlag anticipated a swift, clean operation. His warriors, encased in their dull gray combat armor, their four powerful arms ready, their mandibles set in expressions of grim focus, were already in their drop pods. Primary objective: secure biocompound Silo Gamma 7, Vorlag broadcast to his troops, his voice a guttural rasp. Secondary: acquire any useful biological assets. Minimize engagement with civilian population units. They are resource drains. The Cathar drop pods screamed through the thin atmosphere of XM3, Haven's moon, landing with bone-jarring precision around the perimeter of Ag Station Epsilon's main dome. Alarms blared within the human settlement. Vorlag expected panicked scurrying, perhaps a disorganized attempt at resistance from the local constabulary. What he saw first, through his helmet's enhanced optics, puzzled him. Yes, there was panic. Human figures ran, their movements erratic. But amidst the chaos, he saw a human unit, small, likely a juvenile, dart not towards the designated safety shelters, but towards a flimsy structure made of wood and wire. Inside, Vorlag's scans identified avian creatures of low nutritional value. The juvenile human was attempting to herd these chickens into a container, even as Cathar shock troops began their methodical advance. Illogical, Vorlag sub-vocalized. Wasted effort on non-viable assets. His warriors encountered similar scenes. One Cathar squad reported a human adult, presumably a farmer, attempting to guide large, four-legged bovines into an underground passage, exposing himself to potential fire rather than securing his own safety. Another unit observed a human female sprinting across an open field, not with a weapon, but with a small, furry quadruped clutched to her chest, its long ears flapping. She was calling its name, a series of soft, meaningless syllables. "Commander," Subcommander Grok's voice crackled over the comms. "Resistance is negligible, as predicted. However, the human units are displaying perplexing behavior. They prioritize the safety of non-combatant biological entities over their own." Grok was a younger Cathar, but a staunch believer in the hegemony's creed of utility. The confusion in his voice was palpable. "Ignore these aberrations, Grok," Vorlag commanded, though a flicker of something akin to unease stirred within him. "Focus on Silo Gamma 7. We are not here to study human deficiencies." Subcommander Grok and his fire team breached a residential hab block. Most units were empty, the inhabitants having fled or been rounded up. But in one dwelling, they found resistance. An older human female, her face lined with age and defiance, stood in the center of the room. She held a primitive projectile weapon, a shotgun, according to Cathar intel, but it was not her primary threat that caught Grok's attention. Beside her, a low growl rumbling from its deep chest, was a large canine creature. It was an earth mastiff, a breed Cathar intelligence had catalogued as a domesticated companion animal, occasionally used for guarding. Its fur was a brindled brown, its heavy jowls dripped saliva, and its eyes, fixed on Grok, burned with a cold, intelligent fury. "Stand down, human female," Grok's translator blared. "Your resistance is futile. Surrender the dwelling." The woman, Sarah, tightened her grip on the shotgun. "You're not taking anything else, you monsters, and you're not touching Max." Grok's mandibles twitched. "The canine unit is irrelevant. It poses no significant threat." He took a step forward. That was his mistake. With a speed that belied its bulk, Max launched itself at Grok. It wasn't the clumsy attack of a wild beast. It was focused, aiming for Grok's less armored joints. The Mastiff's jaws, incredibly powerful, snapped at a Cathar arm, seeking purchase. Grok, surprised by the animal's ferocity and the clear tactical intent of its attack, brought his plasma rifle up to swat it away. Simultaneously, the human female fired her shotgun. The pellets spanged off Grok's chest plate, causing no damage but distracting him for a crucial microsecond. Max used that moment to dodge the rifle butt and clamp its jaws onto Grok's thigh, where the armor was thinner. Pain, sharp and unexpected, shot through Grok's leg. He roared, a sound of surprise as much as agony. Two other Cathar warriors in Grok's team moved to assist, but the woman was reloading, her movements economical and practiced. And the dog was fighting with a savage devotion that was deeply unsettling. It ignored plasma bolts searing the air near its head, focusing entirely on disabling Grok, its growls a continuous torrent of fury. It felt less like an animal attacking out of instinct and more like a warrior fighting alongside its partner. Grok finally managed to wrestle his leg free, his armor scored, his limb throbbing. He blasted the creature with a focused plasma shot. Max yelped, a sound of pure agony, and collapsed, smoke rising from its flank. The human female screamed, a raw, decurrent sound that had nothing to do with her own safety. She dropped the shotgun and rushed to the fallen animal's side, heedless of the Cathar warriors now surrounding her. "Max, oh Maxie," she sobbed, cradling the massive head. She looked up at Grok, her eyes blazing with a grief so profound it was almost a physical force. "Why? He was just protecting me. He was a good boy." Grok, nursing his injured leg, felt a wave of profound cognitive dissonance. The human's grief was for the animal. The animal's attack was not random. It was a defense of the human. This level of interspecies loyalty and coordinated action for no discernible utilitarian gain was profoundly alien. Commander Vorlag arrived, drawn by the commotion and Grok's injury report. He surveyed the scene. The grieving human, the dead canine, the visibly shaken Grok. "Sub-Commander, report. What is the meaning of this excessive engagement over a non-strategic asset?" "Commander," Grok began, still processing, "the canine unit, it attacked with tactical awareness. The human female provided covering fire. They fought as a unit." He gestured to the dead mastiff. This was not simply a pet, as our intel suggests. It was a guardian, a dedicated one. Vorlag looked at the dead animal. Standard procedure for unknown biological entities encountered during combat was post-mortem analysis. "Technician, scan this creature. Full genetic and biomechanical workup. I want to understand the nature of this anomaly." As the Cathar technician ran a portable scanner over Max's body, the data began to stream onto Vorlag's command display. What he saw made his primary mandibles go slack, an expression of shock no Cathar had ever seen on his face. The genetic markers were unmistakable. While the base creature was indeed Canis lupus familiaris, its genome was riddled with modifications. Generations upon generations of selective breeding, yes, but also direct genetic engineering. Enhanced muscle density, heightened olfactory and auditory senses, specifically tuned to human vocal ranges and stress pheromones. Neural pathways reinforced for loyalty, territoriality, and protective aggression, specifically cued to threats against designated human family units. There were even subtle skeletal reinforcements around the jaw and neck. This creature wasn't just tamed. It was sculpted. It was a purpose-built organism, designed and refined by humans over centuries, not for food, not for labor in the Cathar sense, but for companionship and unwavering, ferocious loyalty. Commander, the technician reported, its voice hushed. The modifications are extensive. This creature was optimized for devotion. Vorlag stared at the data, then at the weeping human woman, then at the dead dog. A chilling thought began to form in his mind, a thought so heretical to Cathar philosophy that it almost physically hurt. The humans hadn't just formed a bond with an animal. They had engineered that bond. They had taken a natural creature, and with patience and terrifying ingenuity, molded it into a living weapon fueled by affection and a programmed desire to protect. He extrapolated. If humans could do this to a simple canine, instilling such fierce, self-sacrificial loyalty, what could they do with other species, more intelligent species? Could they domesticate avian predators for reconnaissance or giant terrestrial browsers for heavy transport, not through coercion, but through generations of engineered affection and purpose? The thought became darker. What if they applied this obsessive, generational domestication mindset to technology, to artificial intelligence? The Cathar used AI, but their constructs were tools, logical, unfeeling, disposable. Could humans create AI that was loyal in the same way this dog was? An AI that would fight and die for them not out of programming, but out of an engineered love. The concept of a machine, a weapon system, possessed of such an emotional, unbreakable allegiance was utterly horrifying to Vorlag. The Cathar respected strength, but this was a different kind of power, a subtle, insidious strength that grew from what they considered a weakness. The biocompounds in Silo Gamma 7, Vorlag said, his voice suddenly flat. Are they secure? Yes, Commander, another officer reported. Ready for extraction. Leave them, Vorlag commanded. A stunned silence filled the comm channel. Commander, we leave the objective, Grok asked, incredulous. Our primary objective has changed, Vorlag stated, his gaze fixed on the dead mastiff. We have acquired intelligence of far greater value than those compounds. All units withdraw. Evacuate Ag Station Epsilon immediately, and collect samples. All samples of human-associated pets you can find. We need to understand the full extent of this domestication protocol. The Cathar retreat was swift and confusing to the human colonists. They left behind the biocompounds they had come for. They took with them several bewildered cats, a cage of gerbils, and the body of Max the Mastiff. Back on Cathar Prime, Vorlag's report and the accompanying biological data sent shockwaves through the hegemony's high command. The warrior race, which valued utility above all, was confronted with a species that could weaponize affection, that could engineer unwavering loyalty into flesh and blood. The idea that every cute, fluffy creature a human kept might be a potential prototype, a living embodiment of a terrifyingly patient and subtle form of bioengineering for emotional servitude and defense, was deeply unsettling. Galactic perception of humanity began to shift, subtly at first. Cathar traders became unusually wary around human starships that reported emotional support animals on board. Military strategists from other aggressive species started factoring in the human companion variable into their risk assessments. A new, chilling phrase began to circulate in the darker corners of the galactic web, a warning born from the Cathar's terrifying realization on a small agricultural moon. Beware the humans and those they call friend, for their love is a shield, and their pets are a sword, forged in the heart of a loyalty we may never comprehend.